Hey everyone, it's Tom Seymour from VHS Massacre Radio, here with another couple updates. Typically I cover independent films and occasional video game reviews, but I wanted to talk about a few things. So one of the things is Exorcism of Fleete Marish. That's a movie that's coming out in just a couple weeks, March 16th. It should hit streaming sites to be unknown currently, but Flixfling and Indiepixfilms have acquired some of the rights through MVD, which is a distribution company, independent distribution company that I placed Exorcism of Fleete Marish with, which is a horror feature. It's sort of like an homage to the sort of Boris Karloff Frankenstein, because it's a sort of black and white 70-something feature length, meaning it's only about 72, 73 minutes, and similar to the Boris Karloff Frankenstein running time, black and white, and it is a monster feature. It's about these two friends who do an exorcism in the woods, starring Dick Bowen and Debbie Rochon and Maggie Champagne. So I think it's a cool little flick, and so hopefully that'll be available. I'm hoping it'll make its way to free platforms like Prime and places like that. Fingers crossed, something like Tubi, that would be great. Of course, VHS Massacre 2, a documentary I did about the last stand of the American exploitation film, that is free on Tubi if you're interested in that. That's a fun watch. A lot of people, I'm told, like that sort of thing. If you like some of those cooler films that they play on the Last Drive-In, for instance, those sort of creature feature type movies. So that being said, I have that going on, and then another news. So here's the thing: as a dad, sometimes your time is limited, and I wanted to dip my toe back into the narrative feature filmmaking scene. So it's been a number of years. Exorcism of Fleete Marish is, that has taken many years to put together in this particular way. So it's been a while since I've done a narrative feature. I've mostly concentrated on docs, and so so I wrote a script, Grand Falls Killings. It's about this guy Reggie who lives in a food truck and has these series of catastrophic events happen to him, and so it ends up being a horror thriller. So what I was able to do is basically create illustrations to go along with the script, and then released it as a book. So you can get that. It's a horror thriller in screenplay format with illustrations. So so basically it's a kind of what you would call a movie Bible. So I made that, and I'm sort of passing that around to some folks in the industry, but also it's an ebook, and it's a paperback book. So I think that's a lot of fun. It was a fun experience, and I'm going to look into doing something similar. I have a few more ideas kicking around. I think I'm going to try to write them out. And then, of course, very, very beginning stages of VHS Massacre 3, and I'm trying to put that together. Luckily, my friend Chris Ferry is I'm gonna do an interview with him, hopefully in the next week or two, and he's gonna have some really good insight, and I hope it's actually gonna sort of stabilize some of the narrative of VHS Massacre 3. It's been a real struggle. I haven't found my footing on that project yet, and to be honest, I've had a bunch of kind of false starts on documentaries over the last 2 years. I was going to do this thing called American Expendables about North American Pictures catalog, which had a number of strange movies in it, like was it Black Roses and McBain with Christopher Walken, and some of these Cynthia Rothrock action films, Tiger Claws. But they just it just never came to fruition. It was very a bunch of dead ends, and you'll find that happens. Some projects you can push through, and some projects you can't. I guess that has happened to me in the past, but it's balancing the sort of work life, family, and then your creative projects it's a bit of a balancing act that I'm still learning to deal with. Although I am cranking out stuff, I do have to say I'm still working, and I think that was my biggest fear, is that I would stop being creative. But no, luckily I need to do that stuff. That's just how I have to. That's how I get through life, is to just the creative stuff is a release valve. So it's and many folks out there may have the same feelings, like they need to be creative. It's not even necessarily about the product, although it is important to make a good product and important to have a good piece of art at the end of it. Anyway, that's about what I have going on. I'll probably have a few video game reviews as they there's some cartridges coming in that I ordered for the Evercade gaming system, which I think is a very cool retro gaming system. So I'm going to look into that stuff too. But it's a very interesting time, especially as an independent filmmaker, and looking at the backdrop of the Hollywood system. And there's been so much, frankly, really poorly made content. It's sort of hard to pop in and make commentary in there. But I will talk about a few films. I don't tend to do movie reviews because I frankly think there's so many YouTubers out there who do such an excellent job analyzing cinema, whereas I make this stuff, but I can't always talk about it in the way that some other the best people do online. I'm not talking about professional film critics. I'm talking about YouTubers. But I did watch a smattering of films. I tend to like limited location films, so even if they're not independent films, if they have a unique angle, they can be high concept. I have no problem with that. So I watched one called Inside. Willem Dafoe's trapped in he's an art thief who goes into this penthouse, and it's a highly secured penthouse, and when he goes to steal his art, he gets trapped inside, and it's all about him devolving and being trapped and figuring out how to survive, with dwindling resources, stuck in this penthouse with walls that are presumably 3 feet thick, and so it's pretty it's a pretty fascinating watch. And as you're watching, you start to realize, oh, this isn't really. This is about a human being in some sort of purgatory, some sort of traveling through heaven and hell or something, so it ends up being an existential film. It's not just about a guy trapped in a penthouse. So, but Willem Dafoe is always really amazing to watch. I mean, the camera just loves him, and so. I appreciate stuff when it's done at a really high level, and I think this movie Inside is done that way. And then sort of not the same as that is I just watched this film called Fall, about these two mountain climbers who climb this big antenna and get trapped on it. And that's, high concept. It's like, it's a bit of a popcorn thriller. It's not quite horror. It's fairly well created, it's competently directed, and there's some money behind it, and that's just a fun one to watch with your wife or something. It's like, two mountain climbers trapped on a tower. There's been a number of those films. Like there was one where people were trapped on a ski lift. There's one where people are trapped under the ground, like Descent, and so it's not recreating the wheel, but sometimes you just want to watch something that is, reasonably well made and easy to comprehend, and, hopefully free of politics, So I actually recommend both of those. And then I recently watched season 3 of Picard. And not to go into great depth about it, but what I would say is it's definitely worth watching. I would recommend you must avoid season 1 and 2 of Picard. It is a disservice to any Star Trek. It is awful. But then what season 3 does is throw all that stuff out, and it basically is just an extra season of Star Trek Next Generation, but 30 years later. So it's definitely worth checking out. I think that's what's so frustrating about what's going on with the studio systems today and the networks, is that it is such a mismatch of quality. There's such a chasm of terrible shows, and often, like, within the same show, terrible seasons, and then you fast forward, and then suddenly it's okay again, and so it ends up being very, very odd. It's like Mandalorian, right? First two seasons are good, and then season 3 is not good, and then Star Trek Discovery season 3 is good, and then none of the rest of the seasons are good, and then so it's a very odd. We're in a very odd time. There's a real lack of consistency and quality in some of the stuff that's coming out. I think you would think that would leave a window for us independents to come running in the door, but it is a really hard thing. Real independent filmmaking is no budget independent filmmaking, because even what's considered low budget now is $500,000, minimum, to like 30 million, 40 million is still independent. If it's somehow money raised outside the studio system, which is not very likely anyway. And usually when you dig in to where the money is coming from, it's usually it really is studio money. So when we're talking independent film in 2023, we're really talking about no budget, and that is a harder game, though it's still out there. You can peruse the Indiegogo streaming, Indiegogo fundraising, and find actual no budget films still being made. So it's pretty unique in that way. So and there's still people are still out there making this stuff. So you never give up hope. Keep going. You may have to forego this idea that you're going to make a lot of money. That may be gone. You may have to just do it because you love it and understand that you will not make your money back. But, if you can raise money at Kickstarter, Indiegogo, and it doesn't cost you a lot, like you've paid for the cost of the movie and the people who have invested have a copy of the movie, then, I think that's a good thing. So, that's a way that indie film survives. So, anyway, I think, these are some of the subjects that I'm going to concentrate on VHS Massacre 3, always trying to wrap my head around, trying to keep it positive. And so I think I figured out an angle on that. And so I look forward to continue to working on it over the next 2-3 years, and we'll see what happens. So anyway, thanks for listening. Buy Grand Falls Killing on Amazon. It's you can get the ebook for just $4.99 or the paperback $19.99, and then Exorcism of Fleete Marish should be out streaming, possibly on Indiepixfilms and Flixfling, but then hopefully more areas as the months go by. So all right, thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.